Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and I'm finally starting to feel like human after a week or so of just not feeling good at all. But today we're going to talk about the NSA because the NSA pinky swears that they have no back doors in the new encryption standards that are coming up. And this is actually an important topic. This is actually from May. I didn't get around to talking about this until now, but it's important. So let's get going. This is coming from Bloomberg. Now, the U.S. agency basically that is tasked with developing standards for technology, known as the National Institute for Standards and Technology, or NIST, is due to announce the winners of a years-long contest to establish new encryption standards potentially capable of withstanding the futuristic technology that many fear will actually be able to break a lot of the traditional encryption systems, and that is quantum computing. Now, since this is news from May, I did go looking to see if a winner was announced yet, and I'm not seeing anything at this time. So if they have come out, please let me know. I couldn't find one in a quick Google search when I literally started looking for this. Just an FYI here. Now, back to what we're talking about. Essentially, the NSA, which is obviously our top code cracking agency here in the United States, has been involved in parts of the process, but they are insisting that they have no way of bypassing these new standards. And according to Rob Joyce, the NSA's director of cybersecurity at the NSA, basically he said in an interview, there are no back doors. Now, if you didn't know, basically what a backdoor is that it enables somebody to exploit a deliberate hidden flaw to break into encryption, any kind of backdoor that we see in technology. So a lot of times you'll set up a super hardened system and then somebody will hard code in a very easy way to get into it that is supposed to be secret or hidden or not found, and then we get into things. We find these in cheap routers, those kinds of things all the time. Now, an encryption algorithm developed by the NSA was dropped as a federal standard back in 2014 amid concerns that it contained a backdoor. More on that in a bit, because I remember reporting on that years ago, and here we are. I think that was actually before I even had podcasts and daily podcasts and videos. I was already talking about that in writing, but we're going to be talking about that soon. Back to it. The prospect, though, of quantum computers includes being able to solve mathematical problems that normal computers, the ones we're using, like that you're watching me on, whether it's your phone or computer, basically don't have the capability of solving. And that's obviously a huge change in the computing landscape. But it's also one that the White House fears could allow encrypted data that supports the U.S. economy and obviously national security secrets to be hacked and therefore essentially harm, the American standards and way of life. Now, this contest by NIST is intended to update these algorithms that underpin widespread public key cryptography that secure everything from emails to banking online to medical records, access to control systems, even national security work, and obviously beyond that. The Biden administration in May also unveiled a plan to switch the entire U.S. economy to quantum resistance cryptography, which will basically rely on the new NIST algorithms as much as, quote, as is feasible by 2035. This obviously is a huge lift. When you're looking at the vast infrastructure of both the private and public sector here in the United States, getting everybody to switch from standard and traditional cryptography to quantum resistant cryptography is one of those things that is going to be a Herculean task, and hopefully everybody will adopt it sooner than later. And if you're following me, you know I'm going to be on it. Now, scientists estimate that viable quantum computing could arrive anywhere from 5 to 50 years from now. And there you go. Obviously, if you're asking some, outfits like Google, for example, they say they've got it now. Obviously, there's speculation and debate. Not going to get into that. We are talking about the NSA and cryptography. Now, once again, Joyce of the NSA says that it was a question of when, not if, in terms of quantum computing. He is among those who worry that U.S. adversaries are stealing and stockpiling encrypted data intended to remain secret for decades or more in anticipation of being able to unlock it when viable quantum computing arrives, meaning they've stolen data using a standard cryptography methodology now, let's say AES encryption, and when quantum computing comes around, they'll be able to easily crack it. China, for example, is one of those countries that is pouring billions of dollars into the investment into developing quantum computing. Obviously, that's a huge problem given that they're both authoritarian and a massive surveillance state, and rising as an adversary essentially to democracies around the globe right now with their aggressive postures. Poor Taiwan right now is in the middle of that. Now, NIST which started the post-quantum contest in 2016, has taken pains to stress independence in overseeing the public competition, which is now down to 7 finalists from the initial 69 viable submissions from all over the world. Now, while the NSA has helped design and edit NIST standards in the past, this time the Institute made all the decisions about the new algorithms internally, relying on the expertise of its post-quantum cryptography team, and that is according to a NIST spokesperson talking to Bloomberg. Now, the NSA has classified quantum-resistant algorithms of its own, meaning they've got it already, but they basically have developed this over many years. Again, this is according to Joyce of the NSA, but they didn't enter any of their own into that contest. The agency's mathematicians, though, worked with NIST to support the process, trying to crack the algorithms, meaning the submissions from around the world, in order to test their merit and make sure they're good. They went through this when they dropped DES encryption about 20-odd years ago and essentially applied the AES standard over DES. So let's talk about real quick NSA's past with cryptography. This is outside of Bloomberg. I went back and started looking at my notes and other articles and all this kind of stuff because I keep all these kinds of things. Here's what happened back in the day. Leaked documents from Edward Snowden, former NSA contractor, back in 2013 revealed that some of the NSA's techniques for penetrating encryption, and also lent credence to the allegations that basically the algorithms that it had created included backdoors that they could easily get into. Afterwards, by virtue of that, NIST revoked its support for the algorithm. So basically what we're talking about here is a story that broke in Reuters in 2014, originally in 2013, but here's what's going on. That March of 2014, Reuters exclusive was titled Exclusive: NSA infiltrated RSA security more deeply than thought, according to a study. Now, Reuters reported in December of 2013, before that article, that the NSA had paid RSA, and you may know them from their huge conferences, they are a rather big player in cryptography, that the NSA had paid RSA $10 million to make a now discredited cryptography system the default in software used by a wide range of internet and computer security programs. I believe one of the manufacturers caught up in that was Juniper, that was using that cryptography. I could be wrong though, so I apologize, Juniper, but I swear you guys were using that back in the day. Now, this system was called dual elliptic curve, and essentially it was a random number generator, but it had a deliberate flaw or backdoor that allowed the NSA to crack the encryption whenever they wanted. Now, move forward to March of 2014, a group of professors from Johns Hopkins, the University of Wisconsin, the University of Illinois, and elsewhere said that they discovered a second NSA tool that basically exacerbated the RSA software's vulnerability. The professors found this tool known as the Extended Random Extension for secure websites that could help crack a version of RSA's dual elliptic curve software tens of thousands of times faster, according to basically an advanced copy of their research that they shared with Reuters at that time, again, back in March of 2014. While extended random was not widely adopted, that new research shed light on how the NSA basically extended its reach of surveillance under the cover of advising companies on protection. Remember, they are advising and lending cryptographers to NIST for the post-quantum, or quantum-resistant, I should say, encryption project that I'm talking about here. Now, at the time, NSA's response was this. To quote RSA's chief technologist at the time, Sam Curry, I don't know if he's still with them, and I quote, "We could have been more skeptical of NSA's intentions. We trusted them because they are charged with security for the U.S. government and U.S. critical infrastructure." Basically, they trusted when they shouldn't. Law number 3 of the 5 laws of cybersecurity is humans trust even when they shouldn't. Now, it was also reported in 2015 that the NSA figured out how to crack Diffie-Hellman. Basically, these are key exchanges, and they did this before researchers publicly figured this out and started posting on this. Diffie-Hellman was a popular cryptography standard for VPNs, HTTPS-based websites, and other protocols at that time. And so this really underscores the issue and concern. And, obviously, when you're in cybersecurity, you've got a pretty large tinfoil hat. I'm not really into conspiracy theories, and I have no direct evidence that the NSA actually went ahead and did any kind of malfeasance, or basically their cryptographers said, oh, we can't crack it, you should choose this one, and they can totally crack it and have a backdoor. I don't have any evidence of that. But what I can look at is the history as it's been reported and has been acknowledged by the NSA, RSA, and others as well, is that the NSA has a history of doing these things. And so I go back once again to the 5 laws of cybersecurity. Law number 1, if there's a vulnerability, it will be exploited. No exceptions. And law number 2 is everything is vulnerable in some way. We may not know what that vulnerability is right now, but everything is vulnerable in some way. Somebody's going to figure it out, whether it's that 15-year-old kid or it's going to be a state-sponsored intelligence agency. So these are things that we really have to understand are happening in the world. I'd be curious to know your thoughts. Do you think the NSA would build in a backdoor if the NSA figured out how to crack the cryptography that NIST is about to standardize sooner than later? Do you think they'd tell the world? I don't think they would. And history kind of is on my side. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP, where I'm sure you can get cracked. Same with YouTube. Feel free to subscribe to me there. Please subscribe to me there. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please attempt to stay private. Thanks, everyone.